California's skies were cloaked in an eerie orange hue, ash falling like snow as the wildfires raged on. Entire neighborhoods had been reduced to charred remains, and the air was thick with despair. News outlets buzzed with footage of the destruction, and social media was flooded with stories of families losing everything. Amidst the chaos, whispers began circulating. Donald Trump was planning a visit to the heart of the devastation. The announcement sent shockwaves through the community. Some residents were hopeful, believing the former president's visit could bring attention to their plight. Others were skeptical, questioning his motives. Nevertheless, as the day of his visit approached, anticipation grew. In a small relief camp near the affected area, Maria Torres, a single mother who had lost her home, comforted her young son, Mateo. They sat amidst a crowd of displaced families, their faces marked with exhaustion and grief. When Maria heard Trump was coming, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he'll see what we're going through, she murmured to herself, clutching her son's hand tightly. On the day of the visit, the scene was chaotic. Security teams scurried to secure the area, while reporters and cameras lined the makeshift perimeter of the camp. As the convoy of black SUVs approached, a hush fell over the crowd. Maria whispered to Mateo, "He's here. Let's see if he can help." Then the door of the lead vehicle opened, and Trump stepped out, flanked by aides and security. His expression was unusually somber as he surveyed the scene. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every moment. Little did anyone know his words that day would spark a storm of emotions across the nation. As Trump moved through the camp, he stopped to shake hands and listen to residents' stories. The media followed closely, capturing his every move. Despite the skepticism surrounding his visit, he appeared genuinely moved by the devastation around him. When he reached Maria and Mateo, he crouched down to the boy's level. "What's your name, young man?" he asked, his tone unusually soft. "Mateo," the boy replied, his voice barely audible. Trump nodded and looked at Maria. "How long have you been here?" "2 weeks," Maria said, tears brimming in her eyes. "We lost everything." For a moment, Trump seemed at a loss for words. He glanced at Mateo, then back at Maria. This is unacceptable," he said, his voice firm. "We need to do better for families like yours." The exchange was caught on camera, and within minutes, clips began circulating online. People debated whether Trump's reaction was genuine or calculated. But for Maria, it didn't matter. In that brief moment, she felt seen. Later that day, Trump addressed a crowd of first responders, volunteers, and displaced families. Standing amidst the smoldering ruins, he began his speech with uncharacteristic humility. "The devastation here is beyond words," he said. "These fires are a tragedy, and the brave men and women fighting them are heroes." But then his tone shifted. "We need to ask ourselves, why does this keep happening? Mismanagement, outdated infrastructure, and bureaucratic red tape have left us vulnerable. It's time for real change." The statement was met with mixed reactions. Some cheered, while others murmured in disagreement. Then came the line that would dominate headlines. "If the state won't take action, maybe it's time the federal government steps in." The media erupted. Analysts debated whether this was a genuine offer of help or a political maneuver. Social media exploded with reactions, ranging from outrage to admiration. Trump's words had struck a nerve, reigniting the age-old debate over state versus federal responsibility. After his fiery speech at the relief camp, Donald Trump was escorted to a nearby community center where local officials, fire chiefs, and state representatives awaited him. The room was buzzing with tension as Trump entered, flanked by his aides. Mayor Linda Cooper, a vocal critic of Trump's policies, stood with arms crossed, ready for confrontation. "Mr. Trump," Mayor Cooper began, her voice sharp, "while we appreciate your visit, the people here need tangible support, not just sound bites for the cameras." Trump raised his hand slightly, signaling for her to pause. "Mayor Cooper, I didn't come here to make speeches for the cameras. I came to listen, and more importantly, to act." A firefighter with soot-streaked cheeks and a tired expression stepped forward. "We're doing everything we can out there, but our equipment is outdated and our resources are stretched thin. We've been saying this for years, but nothing changes." Trump nodded solemnly, jotting down notes on a yellow legal pad. "I've seen the devastation firsthand. What I'm proposing is a $500 million federal relief package, but He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. It comes with a condition. There needs to be a complete overhaul of your fire management system. The room erupted. Some officials nodded in agreement, while others muttered angrily. Mayor Cooper's face hardened. With all due respect, Mr. Trump, California has faced these fires because of climate change and decades of neglect at the federal level. Now you're asking us to overhaul a system that's been hamstrung by your administration's own cuts. Trump leaned forward, his gaze intense. Mayor, I don't care about the blame game right now. I care about solutions. You can either keep doing things the same way and watch more homes burn, or we can work together to fix this. The heated discussion went on for hours. Trump's team presented detailed plans for reform, including increased funding for controlled burns, better emergency infrastructure, and new federal-state collaboration. Though skeptical, some officials began to see the potential benefits. By the end of the meeting, a tentative agreement was reached. The relief package would be expedited, but reforms would be implemented alongside it. As Trump left the room, a reporter asked, "Do you think this will work?" Trump paused, adjusted his tie, and replied, "If we don't try, nothing will change. This is about action, not politics." The news of Trump's proposed $500 million relief package, tied to sweeping fire management reforms, spread like wildfire across the nation. Cable news networks dissected every detail, while social media platforms became battlegrounds of heated debate. Supporters hailed Trump's proposal as a bold and necessary step, while critics accused him of using the crisis to push his political agenda. In the relief camp, Maria watched the breaking news segment on a borrowed tablet. The anchor's voice was measured but urgent. The controversial relief package has sparked mixed reactions. While some see it as a lifeline for struggling communities, others view it as an overreach by the federal government. Maria turned to the other families gathered around her. "At least it's something," she said, her voice filled with cautious optimism. "It's more than we've had in weeks." But not everyone shared her sentiment. A nearby man shook his head. "It's all talk. We've heard promises before. Let's see if anything actually changes." Meanwhile, across the state, protests and rallies erupted. In Sacramento, a group of environmental activists held signs reading, "No strings attached," and "Climate change is the real issue." A few blocks away, a crowd of Trump supporters gathered with banners that said, "Finally action," and "Trump delivers." Back at his hotel, Trump's aides briefed him on the polarizing reactions. "The public split down the middle," one aide said. "Some think you're a hero, others think you're leveraging the crisis for political gain." Trump smirked as he scrolled through headlines on his phone. "If people are talking, we're doing something right." In the days that followed, Trump doubled down on his message, appearing on major news networks to promote the plan. "This isn't about politics," he insisted during a primetime interview. "It's about saving lives and preventing future disasters. We can't afford to wait." Despite the backlash, the relief package gained traction in Congress. Lawmakers debated fiercely, but the urgency of the crisis left little room for delay. Within weeks, the package was passed, marking a rare moment of bipartisan cooperation. For better or worse, Trump had forced the nation to confront the wildfire crisis head-on. Months later, California's landscape began to show signs of recovery. Blackened hills sprouted green shoots, and displaced families started rebuilding their lives. The $500 million relief package had brought much-needed aid, but the reforms sparked by Trump's visit remained a point of contention. Maria and Mateo, now living in temporary housing provided by a local nonprofit, often reflected on the day Trump visited their camp. One evening, as they watched a news segment about the ongoing reforms, Maria sighed. "Do you think he meant what he said?" she asked Mateo. Mateo, now more aware of the world's complexities, shrugged. "I think he wanted to help, but I also think he wanted people to notice." Elsewhere, Trump stood at a podium during a rally, addressing a crowd of supporters. Behind him, a screen displayed images of California's recovering communities. "When I visited California during those devastating fires," he said, "I saw firsthand the resilience of the American people, and I knew we had to act." The crowd erupted in applause, but not everyone was convinced. Critics continued to argue that the reforms didn't address the root causes of the fires, while others praised the changes as a step in the right direction. In a small office in Sacramento, Mayor Cooper worked late into the night, reviewing proposals for new fire prevention measures. Though she had been one of Trump's fiercest critics, she couldn't deny that his visit had catalyzed change. Sometimes, she admitted to a colleague, it takes a polarizing figure to shake things up. For Maria, the memory of Trump kneeling to speak to Mateo remained etched in her mind. It wasn't just about politics or policy, it was about being seen, even if only for a moment. And for Trump, the visit became a cornerstone of his narrative, a symbol of his ability to lead in times of crisis. The debate over his motives never truly ended. But one thing was clear, his actions had left an indelible mark on California and the nation. And for the families like Maria's, the help they received was more than just a headline. It was a lifeline.